Welcome to Scaling with Heart. If you're tired of carrying the weight of every decision, putting out fires all day, and feeling like your business can't move without you, you're in the right place. I'm Nikki Duncan, founder of SWH Fractionals and creator of the Calm Reset. Here, we talk about what it really takes to create more clarity, less chaos, and sustainable growth. Let's dive in. Today's guest is Madison Page, founder of Rarify Brands, strategic advisor to founder-led consumer brands, and host of the Business Growth Podcast. Maddie helps product-based businesses build loyal, community-driven brands that create sustainable growth through intentional marketing, customer connection, and long-term strategy. Today, we're exploring why community, not just followers, is one of the most valuable assets a business can build, and how marketing, operations, and culture all work together to create healthy, scalable growth. As in advance, if my dog goes off,
Oh, you're okay. My dog was just in here too, sniffing around.
because my office is it's very reverby.
Okay.
And he's laying down here, and if he hears anything outside, he's going to get loud.
Yeah, hey, that's okay. No problem.
He just might want to have his input.
Yeah, hey, he's got his two
Yeah.
cents. He wants
He
to
does.
talk marketing too.
He does. Last time you and I talked, Madison, we talked about, how in your approach to marketing stuff, you worry more about building a community
Yeah.
around a product. He's kind of my community, my dog.
He's the community around the product.
He is. You talk
Yeah.
about your ride or die communities. He's part of my ride or die community.
Yeah, my dog too. My dog would be on my lap right now. If I've been recording podcasts before and he's like, "Wait, you're sitting down? Can I come and join you?"
Yeah, I'm gonna help
Yeah.
you record now. Thanks.
Yes.
Yeah, if I was in the house, I'd have cats and ferrets trying to get in on the game.
Oh my goodness. That's so fun.
There are reasons my house is or my office is separate
Yes,
from the
yeah.
house. Yeah.
It's kind of nice to have like a different place to go sometimes too. Like get up and even if it's in the yard to like I'm gonna go to work.
It is. And you can also, it makes it easier to separate
Oh
for
gosh.
sure.
Yeah,
Because
like
when my office was in the house, I mean, I would find myself working just endlessly.
yeah. And like
And
on like you can endlessly work as well as you can endlessly get distracted. So you get up and
uh-huh.
you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna set up this air conditioner over here." And then it's like, "Oh, I'm gonna empty the dishwasher quick." And it is easy to get distracted and it's easy to
Yep.
just work. It's like everything is just too blended.
Yes, yes. So when we moved out here, there was a little storage shed out here, and I converted it to my she shed
Fun.
and separated us. And I get so much more work done when it
Yeah,
protects
I
that
I can
space, right?
imagine. I
Yes.
want that. I like close my door trying to like to my office that's in my house and I close the door and I'm like I can't go in there after, like whatever 6 p.m. when I'm done with work.
Mm-hmm. It takes a lot of discipline. Yes.
Yes, it
Yeah.
does.
But let's get back a minute to the ride or die communities that you built.
Yes.
What is, as you see it, what is the difference between an audience for a product and a true community? Can you talk to us
Totally.
about that a little bit?
I mean, anybody can have 100,000 followers. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to have a profitable company. I've had plenty of people come to me that have 100,000 followers and they can barely scrape by making $1,000 a month because they didn't actually intentionally build a community of people that were really excited about what they were selling. So when I really look at the difference here, a community are it's people that are very connected to the message and the mission behind your brand. It's people that want to share about your company to everybody they meet. It's people that are showing up at your launches at the moment that you have it. It's people that are commenting on your Instagram, so excited about, this new post or that just like how cool of a video you have. They're sharing it out there. It's really when you have a community, you have this group of people that their identity perfectly fits with the identity of your brand, and they just want to talk about it all the time. They are going to no-brainer rebuy from you over and over again, and they're going to tell everybody about it at the same time. And so when you look at an audience is kind of when you're posting and it feels a little bit like crickets. It just feels like nobody's there. It feels like, it just feels lackluster. And a lot of times when I start to hear people say, Maddie, like social media just doesn't feel worth it. I put content on the back end because I spend an hour creating a post for it to get 12 likes and like 400 views, and that just doesn't seem like it's worth it to me. Odds are that you're focusing on creating more of a audience there than you really are trying to focus on community. I don't care. I would rather you have 10,000 followers that are ride or die, love your brand, than you have 100,000 followers of an audience. And so when we're really looking at it, it's the engagement rate, it's the referral rate, it's how much they buy, how much they come back to buy from you, and truly just like true adoration for the brand in general.
Love that. It's kind of like listening to you talk made me think back to my old life where once upon a time I was actively publishing books,
Yeah, cool.
and a lot of authors had street teams. And I had a street team for a hot minute before my publisher closed. That's a whole other
Yeah.
thing. And my street team, we were very intentional building that street team. And, it had to be those ride or die, I'm going to buy Nikki's book no matter what she puts out
Yeah.
people. And we limited it. I think there were only 5 or 6 of them. And they had to have an audience and their own community
Yeah.
in the book world that aligned with the audience that I wanted to reach, and the people that I
100%.
wanted to reach. And so those people just, you talked about having a launch day and they're there. Those people on my street team, and I know a lot of authors do the same thing, where their street team, they get a copy of the book early.
Yes.
And so they not only are they there for the launch and to help make the launch a big deal, but they're excited about the launch because they got to see the product
They feel like they're a part of
early.
it, and they got
Yeah.
like this sneak peek. They feel actually appreciated, which is a really big strategy to help build community, is to look at the people that are naturally already coming back and how can we pour back into them. And if you think about that, that's like, OG influencers. Now we call them
Mhm.
content creators or influencers or ambassadors. Like there's so many names for it. But way back 10 years ago, I had a blog and I was an OG influencer where I had a community and I was just talking about, sustainability and outdoor living and things like that. And it would be very similar where I would have people, hey, can we do this? And it is very similar to the sense of what you're looking for is, do these people already naturally love what you have? And B, are they the type of person that you want to attract over and over and over again? Because not only are your community members going to come back to you, they're going to talk to their friends. And people that are friends with each other are usually at least alike in some of their values. And so it works to be like, okay, let's first identify who is this community member? What does she love? What does she hate? What's her style? And then how do we attract that person? Where are they? Where are they consuming? And how can we make them feel super appreciated? Because every one community member can also turn into 20 customers if you are in the right community because they naturally will want to share. If I have a friend sitting at brunch and they say, oh my gosh, I just bought this new lipstick and I'm obsessed with it. Odds are I'm going to go check the company out and see, okay, maybe not that exact shade, but I'm going to go, like my friends and I did this. We all have these like lip stains. Somebody said, I wear this every day and I'm obsessed with it. And I'm pretty sure we all wear it now. And it's because we got one person to be like, no, this is an incredible company because they were a community member. And now it probably turned into 25 customers that come back month after month to buy that same lip stain.
Right. Yeah, and exactly. And that was always our goal with the street teams. And,
Yeah.
and listening to you and the way that you look to build a community around a product.
Yeah.
I work and you and I have talked about it, we do two different things. You work with a product and the marketing of that product. And I work more on the back end with the operations and the scalable systems and
Yes.
processes. But they are both built so tight knit around people
Yeah, they
and
have to
the
be.
community. And, in a company culture, I think is very similar to a product's community
Yes.
or, the community on the outside. Because if you don't have the community on the inside, you're not getting the community on the outside. And I think that they very much I think they have to work together.
Yeah.
Uh, because that
Well,
inside healthy culture is definitely going to play to the ability to build a healthy community
I would
outside.
agree. And I think it's important to have, at least on your like creative marketing side, have people in the marketing that are also your ideal customer. And it's something that I see a lot is that they have this ideal customer, these community members, but it's hard to create content that actually connects to them because the people that are marketing just don't understand that person or they aren't that
Right.
person, so they don't know who they are. And so you're very right that building a company culture is really important. I think it's important to also have community members inside of your company culture. But if you have a lot of people inside of your company culture that are super transactional, super cold, they don't really care about the people, it's also going to show through in your
Mhm.
marketing, in your growth, because the whole goal of marketing, I've been teaching this for 7, 8 years, and it's more necessary now than it's ever been. It used to kind of be like a nice to have, and truly having a community now is a must have because the consumer has changed and they're kind of requiring it for most products in most industries. And so now, if you have people in marketing that are cold and transactional, odds are they're not going to come back. They're not going to love you. They're not going to have that same level of adoration that you really need in order to build that scalable company. And these two sides, like, okay, so I work on brand marketing, and scaling from that side. They coincide perfectly with systems behind the scenes because if we triple your sales from a marketing side, you have to be able to withstand it on the inside as well and almost build that first before you can actually scale. So it's not like backpedaling and oh my gosh, we have everything out of stock and the team is
Mhm.
super burnt out. Like they have to work very simultaneously. I call it the inward and the outward side of business. The outward being the branding and the marketing and what all the customers see, and the inward being that culture and the systems that's going on.
Right. It's funny you talk about if they scale too fast, being out of stock. I just spoke with a lady for the podcast last week, and that episode will go live. I don't know, but it'll go live soon.
Yeah.
And she is all about the supply chain and, the inventory control and the SKUs and all of that stuff.
Yes.
And it's funny, I can see how on the surface, it seems like the three of us would have nothing in common, right? You work with brand marketing, I work with systems, and she
Yeah.
works with the SKUs. But at the same time, they all have to work together.
Yeah.
And if somebody like me, if there hasn't been a me to get the systems in place so that you
Yeah.
can scale, and there's not somebody like her to help with the inventory management and
Yeah.
have that piece in place, then when somebody like you comes in and helps blow the doors out of the sales, then all of the rest of it falls apart.
100%. We see it all the time.
And
And like
yeah,
odds are the majority of brands that people look up to are a little bit of a mess behind the scenes. Like I've seen behind the scenes, I'm sure you know the same thing, is like you come into these companies and you're like, "Whoa, we gotta shape some stuff up here. We have to add systems to it." And those three buckets are the big buckets. It is like operations of like delivery and fulfillment,
yep,
operations of like the company as a whole, and then brand and marketing of what's actually seen on the outside. And two-thirds of that the customer doesn't see. And I think this is where very often people just think, oh man, I'm the only brand that's like a little bit of a disaster behind the scenes. But you're not. But these people just need systems. And when they do, everything just works like symbiotically. Okay,
right.
the sales increase, and then the team is okay, is like, excited about it. And then the operations, everything's going out. And those are really the three buckets that you do have to work in kind of all the time, making sure that, okay, do we have the inventory logistics to actually scale the sales? Okay, yes, we can create that. Great. Do we have the systems to actually be able to, keep a functioning team and have all of that? Yes. Okay, great. Okay, now we can scale. And we always kind of pendulum swing back from let's work on the inward side and now let's work on the outward. Let's scale on the inside before we scale on the outside.
Yeah. I had a friend come to me, it's been several months now, and she says, she's in a business where if she's not physically working, her income limit, it's very limited
Yeah.
because she's the magic, she's the product.
Yep.
And, and I kind of get that. I mean, my husband is a general contractor. He's the same way, right? If
Yeah.
he's not on the tools, he's not making money.
Hmm.
As a fractional operations person, if that's all I do is fractional operations, if I'm not working, I'm not earning.
Yeah.
And so I have this conversation with people so often. They're like, well, I need to work less hard, but still scale my income. And that seems to be the people I talk to most. I was talking to this one friend and she's like, how do I do that? And so we started brainstorming and I threw out the idea of basically a product. It's an app. They said you could build an app around what you do and you could, and threw out
Yep.
all these ideas of it. And she's like, oh my gosh, I really love that idea. And then I didn't hear from her again. And she called me a few weeks ago and she's like, can I come over? I need to talk to you right now. I need to come over. I said, okay, fine. So she came over and she's telling me I went to the gym. I was talking to this guy at the gym and he builds apps and he's already built a model of the app and this is what it's going to look like. And I've already got the branding done. And I'm like, pump the brakes. Like it's awesome, but pump the brakes. You need to slow down a little bit and you need to think. I mean, because she was ready to just pull the trigger on all of it. I'm like, okay, but what is the brand? How are you going to market it? And she's very creative and could come up with her color schemes and all of that stuff because she's very
Yeah.
artistic. But I'm like, that's not all there is to branding. There's more to a brand
Yeah.
than the colors in your logo. There's, all of the stuff behind it and what do you want it to mean and what do you want it to stand for? And, um, and she's just ready to charge whole hog. And I was talking to my daughter and she's like, my daughter is also knows her. And she says, I worry that she's going to put this out there and it's going to be more than anybody wants. And she's not going to have the buy-in that she wants because she won't have that community
Yeah.
behind her because she's trying to do it all on her own. And then on the flip side of that, I know someone else that has a very strong idea of what her brand is, not necessarily the visual part, but she knows her brand.
Yeah.
And so for her, it's been, instead of moving real fast, she's moving real slow because she's like, well, but what do I want my brand to look like? What do I want it to
Yeah.
feel like when the people are looking at it? What do I want people, when people go to my website? What is the feeling I want them? Not how does it make me feel,
Yeah. I
but
call
how
this
does it
the
make,
art and the science of business is like
yeah.
most people are their brains work in either art or science. And some people are great with spreadsheets and great with structure and great with making business plans. And some people, as you say, are like, no, I can make something beautiful. And rarely do you have somebody that's naturally both of those things. And you can learn either side, but business is always going to be a balance of the two. You can't have
Mhm.
marketing without creative and without strategy. You can't have packaging without creative and with strategy. You can't scale a company at all without creative and with strategy. And so I totally agree that the best thing you can do for your company is to build a community prior to launch, because it's pretty great for you to be able to say, okay, we're live and customers start rolling in. Is it
Right.
necessary to have that? No, you can build it after, but it just doesn't have the same level of buy-in. And people are often, when they launch it too quickly, and it depends on your personality traits, but oftentimes people get kind of bummed because it's very anticlimactic if you don't start marketing and you don't have some of the strategy behind it. Because in your mind, you just did all of this work. You've been working for months to years on creating this, and then all of a sudden it's live, and you're like, all right, my like Aunt Susie bought, and maybe my best friend. You're like, that's awesome. They joined, but like that's it. But really, I always say like the launch is not the end game. The end
Right.
game doesn't really show up until you sell your company. It's really like stage zero is the launch. Like you're at stage one the day that you click launch. And so where can we be at stage one to really help us is have that community. You will never regret building a community around anything. As long as it is an actual aligned community that is going to be excited about your product, your community is going to be your biggest asset almost always, but you need to know that you have to, like, the strategy behind it is balancing that art and that science. Yes, you can have, I have plenty of people that come to me, and because I am a strategy brain, I tend to have a lot of creative clients because they're craving somebody that understands the spreadsheets and the data and the structure and the like strategy piece behind all of it. Um, I envy people's natural ability to create something beautiful. It took me a very long time to figure out, okay, how like my first brand was awful. The branding was hideous. Like I look back and look at the graphics and it was really bad, but it was 10 years ago
Right.
and I didn't build out that piece of my brain. But the best part is that if you want to, you can build out like I have gotten more creative, I've gotten more aesthetic, and I can definitely create it that way. And people that are creative can get more structured, but you also don't have to be. Like, there's a reason that people say hire for your weaknesses. And so if
Yes.
you are a strategy person, you need to have like your first hire should be somebody that can make stuff very beautiful. And if you are a brand person, then you need to hire somebody that understands the data and the logistics. I always say like the best co-founder duo has one like really aesthetic person and one super structured person. You see this in CEOs everywhere where if they're couples, like if they're a married like husband and wife, they oftentimes like one is the creative director and one is the CEO. You see this Walt Disney, his brother, Walt Disney was a creative, his brother was the strategy. You look at most businesses that are successful, and the founder might not, is not actually the person that is doing the creative and the strategy because it's really hard to find somebody that's actually very good at both. And at the end of the day, you might not actually want to be. You probably want
Right.
somebody there to be checking your own brain a little bit.
Yeah. I was absolutely thinking about Disney while you were talking because I've
Yeah.
heard it said there would be
Yes.
no Disney because Walt just wanted to draw the mouse.
There would be no Apple. Like Apple, this is
And
the same way. It's like,
right.
Apple, and they had a creative and a strategy person. Like all of them, some of our are the biggest brands out there had to figure out how to balance the art and the science. And so no matter the size of your brand, even if you're a startup, that is something that you have to be focusing on. Are
Right.
you naturally an art or are you naturally a science? And you have to figure out how do we plug the gaps on the side that you don't have.
Yeah, and if people don't know how to figure that out, I found recently I read two books. One of them is called Traction and the other one is called Rocket Fuel.
Yeah.
And inside both of those books, I think they're both written by the same person, but inside both of those books, they talk about the entrepreneurial operating system. But
Yeah.
there's a quiz in there. Are you a visionary, creative, or are you an integrator, operations
Yes.
systems? And you can be both. I mean, I took the quiz and I am 50. My score for visionary was 59 and my score for integrator was 89.
Yeah.
So I have a healthy dose of both, but I'm much more
Of a builder.
integrator,
Yeah.
operations, systems, tear it apart, put it together, make it
Totally.
better. I can see and dream up and come up with ideas and I can make things pretty, but like you're saying, there are other people who are just more naturally gifted at the make things beautiful. My
Oh yeah.
youngest daughter is an artist and she can create stuff that makes my brain just it just boggles the mind, the things that
Yes.
you can create. I mean,
Like that
I
just popped
walked
out of
in
your
it.
mind. That's
I'm
crazy.
like, how did you even, I mean, she woke me up. She gets a little rowdy sometimes. And when she was much younger, she woke me up one night and I went into her room and opened the door and she yelled at me to stop. And she stopped at the door before I could mess it up because it's a pocket door.
Oh
And
yeah.
when she finally let me open the door, wide enough for my face to stick through, she's sitting on the floor in front of the door and she's painting. And she's on her phone. She's got a Bob Ross picture. And on her door, she's just Bob Rossing her door. And
Fun.
she's painting a version of one of his paintings, not
Yeah.
even exactly, just he's just the inspiration. And I now have three Bob Ross like
Yeah. Pocket.
paintings
Yeah.
on the back of the door. I, in a million years, could not paint that. Can I go out and pull iStock photos down and say, oh, we can put this element together with this element And
Yes.
I mean, I can do that and make it pretty, and I can look at colors and go, ooh, I like this color with this color and that kind of stuff. But the whole, visualizing things and scribbling something out and it being beautiful, it's just not me.
Yeah, and it's okay. And like I'm the same way as my friends will tell me this big idea they have, and my brain is like immediately computing exactly the like action steps that they need to take. And a lot of times they're just in this like creative visionary mode. And I think it's really important to recognize in other people, are you a creative or are you, there I would say there's creatives and there's strategy people, and then there is executors that some people are like, just tell me what to do and I'll do it and I'll do it really well, where they don't really have they really are just like, just give me a list of things to do. And it's really important when you're hiring, when you are, talking to any partners or anything, what type of person is this? And is it actually complementary to your person?
Right.
It's something that whenever we're making people's first few hires, and even if they already have a team, I say like we want to look at what are your strengths and where are the gaps within your team right now. Like, I have a client that is incredibly creative and she's hired a ton of very creative people. And I looked at her team and I said, hey, you don't really have a strategy person. You have a creative director and you're working with people to do your emails and your marketing and all of these things, but everything is very aesthetic. And there's no real like strategy or messaging or structure behind it. That's where you need. So then we go out and you have to find some of those people. And I think it's really important, again, from the community lens, is I always say if you have art without the science, you can attract people, but you won't really convert them. If
Right.
you have science without the art, you will intrigue people, but again, you will never actually build that magnetism to attract people at the masses. So you need both to have, because 90% of people are visually motivated. So it's like
Mhm.
when you're scrolling Instagram and you pick on somebody's social media and all of a sudden you're on this business, you're like, oh my gosh, how have I never seen this before? This looks like it's so me. They're like, you walk into a boutique and you're like, oh, you could buy me anything in here. And it's because they've mastered that art side to basically say, this is our person, this is the identity that they have, this is the style that they love, and you're naturally attracted. But how you actually get people to spend a lot of money with you is through the science piece, is through, okay, you need certain funnels. Okay, we need to have certain messaging in different places. Okay, your checkout page needs to look like this in order to actually convert a lot of those people. And so if you really are focusing on community, I would say we have to start with the art side of understanding the identity and understanding who that is and how do we really visually create this identity. And then we can add in the strategy piece. I think Rode does a really great job at this, is they know who their customer is. And I think it's really important to note that it can be who your customer is, and it can also be who your customer wants to be, either seen as or wants to be. And
Right.
so Rode does a really good job of like this aspirational life that it's very clean girl, it's very minimalist, it's very like luxury on these European vacations. But it's like the Pilates gal that is gorgeous effortlessly is really what they're creating. And they have just a few products to basically say, and they started with like 7 SKUs and they've now expanded, but those 7 SKUs got them to the use these 7 products and you'll be effortlessly beautiful, like the identity that we have built within our brand. And people like they have built such a ride or die community and they've done such a good job. They are a great case study on community building. They notice problems and then they fill it with how can we actually make that a positive. They have pop-ups with lines around the street. They have people begging them for their PR boxes. Their pop-ups, people were complaining that there were so many people in line that they could never actually get into the pop-up. So then they made the line really fun. They started to give out products in line and they made photo booths in line. So no matter if you got to get into the pop-up or not with products still available, you still felt like you were a part of it.
Right.
And that's really what matters is people want belonging. They want community. They want connection even in the products that they're buying now. I think we've gotten very disconnected in a very connected society, but it's all surface level connection. And so people are looking more for, wow, like this makes me, they're looking for that identity and they're looking for that, wow, this makes me really feel like me or the me that I want to feel like.
Right. Well,
Mhm.
yeah, and what you say, as you were talking about the pop-ups and people filling them and the
Yeah.
boxes and things like that, it made me think about there's one company that my daughter, she is a music school teacher,
Yeah.
elementary, and she's got one company that she is just obsessed with.
Yeah.
And they started out on Instagram. I don't even know exactly how they started out, but they started out and it was you can get this musically themed t-shirt, that's got some cute little music saying on it,
Yeah.
right? And all of a sudden all these music teachers were buying this. And now they've got, you know, several products, but they don't keep one product in stock for a long time. It's always a limited run kind
Yes.
of thing. And she, like so many other people, every single month they release something new. And so
Yeah.
every single month she's like, "Hey, can you bring me my musically minted box? I want my musically minted box, Mom. I know you're going to be surprised, but there's another musically minted box coming to this house." And I'm like,
Yes.
"Okay, fine." And it is one of those things that when people say, "What does Andrea want for Christmas?" You know what? Go to Musically Minted's website and see what they've got
Yeah.
and buy her something. And they go to, I don't know if they do pop-ups or anything. I know that there's a teachers music conference that's like a big deal, and all the teacher music people go there once a year in Texas. And they are always there. And Andrea's like, I have two choices. I can be up at 5 a.m. to stand in line and be the first in line and actually get product, or I miss out on what they have
Yeah.
because the line is so long, and they do special items just for the conference, and they've got that ride or die community that you're talking about, and they were
Yeah.
very niche with it. It's very much music teacher targeted,
Yes.
and that feels like that would be such a small audience and that you would never make successful money at it,
Yeah.
but they you
There's
know
a lot of music teachers out
there's a
there. It's a
lot of
lot
music
bigger than you
teachers.
think. Yeah, and I think
Yes.
people underestimate the power of niching down in their product. Like, you don't want to be so niche that there's 10 people that it talks to in the world. But if you speak to music teachers that want to wear a t-shirt that like says something about music on it, people in their minds would say that might be too niche. Let's do teachers in general and we'll do all a variety. But those people wouldn't feel as connected to the brand because a lot of them wouldn't like even appeal to them, right? If they're talking
Right.
about science, your daughter wouldn't care about it. And so they've created this community of people that every single drop have basically something that they could be excited about. They've created an infinite flow of scarcity, basically saying, wow, if I don't show up, they won't be there. And so I'll miss out, and then I'll see all these people getting these fun boxes, and I won't get one. They've also created a lot of exclusivity to basically make people feel like they're a part of it if they have it. And they like are in the in crowd if they are wearing it. And those are some really big psychological triggers that help people build a really ride or die community. And so they've done a great job. And a lot of businesses do start, especially in that category, with that drop culture because it is easy to build in the scarcity and the showing up and getting excited and like you're kind of like all ride or dying together because you're like, shoot, I gotta be there. I'm setting an
Mhm.
alarm for 10 minutes prior. I'm making my cart prior to, and when they go live, I know I have to buy, otherwise I'm gonna miss out on my size and the one that I want. And all of those things are really do point to the community side of things.
Yeah. Yeah. And Lego has a big community. It's
Lego's a really
companies
great
like
case study
that.
as
And
well.
that's a huge company with a major community. And interestingly, as I was out with my husband and daughter yesterday, and he says, "Oh, they're building a new Target there." And he's less Target, more Walmart because he's
Yeah.
all bargain buy. And my daughter's like, "No, no, Target's better." So we had this whole who's better, Target or
Yeah.
Walmart debate. And my daughter says, "Well, my fiance believes that Target is better because they have a better Lego connection, right? And
Yes.
collection and better products." So for him, it's because he is such a fanboy of Lego.
Yeah, he just wants to go there to check out the Legos.
He just wants to go check out the Legos, but so Lego has built this great community and Target
Yeah.
has connected to that community
Well, and Lego was on the
and
verge of
brings that.
bankruptcy. Yeah, they were on the verge of bankruptcy because they didn't. They didn't build a community and they expanded their SKUs too quickly. And so what they did is essentially if that music company that your daughter really loves all of a sudden expanded into all teachers everywhere and it diluted their community completely
Mhm.
because now again, there was just so much out there that people just didn't really care about. And they switched CEOs, and the CEO came in and said, "This is a product that we just need to build a community around." And he was pretty early on in the process, in like the world of everybody's talking about community building now, but this was probably, a decade or two ago at this point. And they basically started to they fed into other communities. So they did the Harry Potter collections and they did the
Yeah.
Star Wars collections. And so they were trying to kind of feed off of the excitement around other people's communities and they got their audience involved. So they did these, build whatever you can build, and we'll choose a winner every year that will then put that build in a box.
Right.
And so they got their customers involved in that's again a very big strategy to build a community is people need to feel like they're a part of something and that they were kind of involved in creating it. And even if people lost, they still got to say, "Hey, I entered this and like this was still the winning." And so the whole thing that turned Lego around, they were closing all of their stores. They were on the verge of bankruptcy, and their last ditch effort was to let's hire a different CEO and see how we can do. Again, a new strategy brain had to come in and say, "This is where your gaps are. This is what's not working." And the community is what saved Lego. And now they are one of the biggest companies in the world.
Right. Yeah. It's so I always find it very interesting to watch these different companies and to really stop and think about what it is they're doing and how they are doing it
Yes.
and and how they
Oh,
got
I do it
there.
all day long.
Right? That's
Yeah,
that
it's the
strategy.
best.
That's the strategy part of it. Is you're like, how did they do that? And how can
Yeah.
I, and
Well, yeah, I think we'll see
yeah.
a big change in like Lululemon. Lululemon is in a very similar spot to where Lego was, where shares are dropping, revenue is dropping. They were at one point the category leader, and then all these people came in and the industry got diluted. And truly, Lululemon just hired a new CEO and they're totally going to try to revamp, but it's because they stopped evolving and they stopped connecting with their community. They said, we're the category leader. We don't have to do anything. We dilute all of our marketing. And now Lululemon is needing to really like revitalize who is the brand? Who are we trying to attract? Because they said we're for everybody. And if you're for everybody, you're not going to
Good for
attract
nobody.
everybody. Yeah, you really are for nobody. And so I would say that's kind of step one is who is your ideal customer? What is their lifestyle? And then how can we make sure that every touch point they have with your brand, they feel like they are just so nurtured within your community where they want to come back, they have a great buying experience, they love your product, and they're very involved within the actual building of the company.
Yeah. And I love that stuff. I mean, it's just a lot of fun to sit and study. And as I work with clients, look at how can we do some of what those have done?
Yes.
And, I mean, one client I've got, she says, okay, one of the first things, and she's got a marketing degree, so
Yeah.
she knows how to make that pretty package.
Yeah.
But she's like, I need, we need the target audience. And, she says, and my marketing degree is not 5 years old. It's,
Yeah.
considerably older than that. Uh, so some of the general concepts are the same,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of new stuff that's coming into play. And, we've got to do that. And so a lot of what, even before you and I started talking and I heard about what you do, she and I were talking and it's like, okay, but what you do, how do we build a community around what you do? And she's an event venue.
Yes.
And how do we build a community around that? And so we started having that conversation, what do you want people to feel when they come to your space? And what do you want them to walk away with? And what do you want them to feel when they come to your website? And how do we build a community around that? And we have not launched her new stuff yet. It's all very much background still at this point because we're getting all the little duckies lined up so that,
Yeah.
um, so when she's ready to flip the switch, she wants to flip the switch everywhere all at once,
Yeah.
right? Which is very logical to me.
Yeah.
Instead of, oh, let's do a little bit here and a little, whatever, just throw it out there all at once and have it and just flip that switch. Um, but we've been talking about different things to do to elevate her one product, which is the venue.
Yes.
And, is it too niche to say, that I am a wedding venue, or are we muddying the waters too much if we branch out and do these other kinds of events that she's
Yeah.
not done before? And, and there's a ton of stuff that she wants to be able to do. But right now, it's like you're talking about, don't scale too quickly.
Yeah. There's a
Start,
lot of
start
like,
here.
yes. Again, with an audience, there's always going to be people that are outside of your ideal customer that are intrigued enough to shop. And
Right,
so you're really trying to find your biggest opportunity to scale. So, like for an event company, what I would say is, it's okay to say we do weddings as our primary event. And you might have a page on your website that says like other events, like, hey, if you need a family reunion space or any of these other spaces, we do still do these. Here's some examples of what we've done, but you're primarily focusing on weddings because I mean, like my mom's planning an event right now and she's been calling around and she's like, they're all booked for weddings, but I want to book it for a different event. And she's still calling wedding venues and saying, hey, can I have this other event, even though she's not their technical ideal customer.
right,
And so people will still seek you out, again, if you have enough of a reputation and a community and a vibe and an aesthetic that people want to be a part of. And so I think it's really important to pick your ideal customer as your primary, and you can have secondary and tertiary ideal customers that are kind of in the back of your head that people can use and like can that they do still like your product, but they don't have to be your primary focus. So it's kind of like the 80-20 rule, as with most things in business. It's like I have a skincare company that I work with, and they have skincare that works really well for people with sensitive skin, but it also works really well for like men who have very chapped hands, like working hands that are very chapped and they're very callous. And so every once in a while, we'll run an ad. It's almost Father's Day. We ran ads around this is a perfect gift for the working dad that, needs something to help his cracked hands in the summer, right? When they're working really hard. And so there's some of these like sideline ideal customers that you can still attract, but you want to have your primary community be one major person. And you
right,
can expand that one major person as you scale, but you have to do it very strategically. It's not going from okay, we do weddings to now it's just like an open space that people can come for anything. You say we do weddings. Oh, and we also do, family reunions if you want it. You kind of
right,
like go adjacent to it. So, okay, we are working with people that really love Halloween, but okay, Halloween is a seasonal company. So now what do we do for people that are who in this audience can we say, all right, they would buy from us year round. How can we expand that a little bit more? So it's almost like the one notch away until you get to be a couple notches away from your initial ideal customer. But that's like hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue down the line where you're really looking at that.
right. Yeah.
Mm.
And she's far enough down the line that, it's time for her to start looking at that, but she is still looking at it, yeah, very strategically. She's like,
Yeah.
I don't want to jump too fast, So on the back end, as we rebuild her website, like you're saying, the other events pages, we've got a mention to these other kinds of events, specifically
Yes.
three main categories. There's celebrations, corporate offsites,
Yeah.
and wellness retreats. The theme being it's a rustic venue out away from everything. And so it's all
Yes.
about a reset. It's a chance to
Yes. It all has to
slow
go back to
down,
that same message.
slow down, stop, and connect with the moment
Yeah. Love that.
is what it's about. And that is the through line on everything. And it's funny because we've talked about, businesses and products and all of that stuff. I also volunteer and help job seekers who are in transition.
Yeah.
And it's the same conversation. You are a product and you have to be able to build this
Yes.
community around you. And you've got to have people who are willing to go to bat for you and recommend you and all of that stuff. But to do
Yeah.
that, you have to know what your personal brand is.
Everything is marketing, truly. Everything is marketing. When you're making friends, you're marketing yourself. When you're trying to get a job, you're marketing yourself. My family had a company growing up, and we would hire like 50 to 70 people every winter for the next season. It was a seasonal company. And I would always, in the beginning of the year, I'd be like, these people send me these resumes, and they truly have no idea that like the resume is your marketing for yourself. And I do think it's really important to understand in how many areas when you're selling a house if you're flipping furniture on Facebook Marketplace, like no matter what, if you're selling your car on Facebook Marketplace, it's all marketing. Everything you're doing in like truly, and I think it's why I like marketing is, I see it everywhere. Everywhere that
Mhm.
you're, even if you're at a hotel and you are asking for an upgrade on your room, you're trying to sell people. It is a business strategy. And so it's something that you can never get away from it. And I love it. And I'm looking at it all the time. But yeah, you need this community around you. You need to understand what makes people tick and like how like what really makes people want to say yes to something and feel very intrigued by something. Enough to be like, oh, I'm gonna, oh, I see this daybed on Facebook Marketplace. I'm gonna drive an hour and a half and go buy it. It's all marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My husband is always putting stuff on Facebook Marketplace. And so we always have people come out and they're like, I've been looking for this exact thing.
I love a
And
good
it's
Facebook Marketplace scroll.
it's the funniest thing. I mean, just the other day, he says, are you going to be home? Somebody's coming out to get that train. And I'm like, what train? I didn't even know there was a train.
Yeah.
Uh,
You have a
and
train?
he's like, I put it on the back porch. And I said, okay, fine. And so the guy shows up and he takes the lid off and he's looking through I mean, it's like a 60, 70-year-old man. And he's sitting there and he's looking through this box of this train set like he's a child.
Yeah.
And it's funny, he was telling me, you talk about marketing, and he was telling me, he says, every time as a collector of trains, he says, I'm always on the lookout for a train set.
Yeah.
And what stood out to me about this post, every person that posts a train set to sell on Facebook Marketplace, they send a picture, they put a picture of the train track and the transistor thing that makes the train go.
Yeah.
He says, nobody cares about that
Yeah. People aren't using these trains.
because everybody who has a train track.
Yeah.
Every train set comes with a train track. We all know this. We don't care. We want to know what the individual cars are.
Yeah. 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 Because they're
And
collectors. And
And
it's
my husband set up a picture, and he had all the individual cars, and there was one car in the whole set that this guy didn't have that he wanted.
so
And
cool.
that's why he was there. And having a similar conversation with my daughter. She's helping my mom go through old family stuff, and my grandmother collected clowns. And so my daughter's listing all this clown stuff online. I'm like, now wait, some of that clown stuff that grandma had was, I mean, he was like a big deal clown. I mean, there's
Yeah.
like a museum about him. There's a hall of fame for him. And she's like, wait, what? And so she's going out and she's like, well, that'll change my messaging, you
Yeah.
know, and that will change her approach and how she messages people about
100%. Yeah.
buying the clowns. So you're right. Marketing is everywhere, no matter what we're doing. Um, and I am being cognizant of our time, and we're going to run out. So before we run out,
Yeah.
Madison, what is one parting thing that you really want to leave people with? And let's make sure we tell them how to connect with you to work
Yeah.
with you. Sure.
Absolutely. When you look at building a community, really take it as how can we build true connection? I like to say there's three C's. It's collaboration, communication, and connection when you're building a community. And so we're always looking at collaboration. How can we get them involved? You can't build community without actually having a two-way street of some like, of collaboration here. When we look at the connection, is they're saying, how can we actually truly connect with these people and make this a place that they feel very supported by the company? And then community is the collaboration, the connection, and the communication. The communication is how can you communicate the proper information to your customers that they need to know in order to properly use the product and refer the product. Because if they don't know what to say, if they don't know how to use it, they're not going to be super excited about it. So, like a supplement company that I've worked with, they they didn't have a great retention rate. People would buy it once, but we found that they would maybe buy once every 6 months, but they had a 30-day supply is what was people buying. And so we looked at their funnels, their follow-up email sequence, like their post-purchase flow, and we would see that there was no information that would ever say, really reiterate the fact that you have to use this product every single day. And if you use it every day, this is how you're going to feel, and these are the results you're going to see, and like you just have to stick to it. Here's a system of how you can stick to it. And we created this flow that basically educated people on how to actually properly use their products. Their referral rates skyrocketed, their return customer rate skyrocketed, and people loved the product after that. And it's a brand that many of you guys know and love. And it's because we actually communicated the information. And so that's a piece that a lot of people often forget. So you always have to go back. How can we collaborate more? How can we connect more? And how can we communicate more? And you'll build more of a community that way. If you do want to learn more, my name is Madison Page. I'm the host of the Business Growth Podcast. So you can always go over there and dive into the podcast. We have about 500 episodes, and there's a lot of information on this: branding, marketing, community, sales, scaling, being a business owner in general. Otherwise, you can find me on pretty much any social network. It's at This Is Madison Page, but I live mostly on Instagram and LinkedIn. So at This Is Madison Page, and you can connect with me there.
I love it. Well, thank you
Woo!
so much for being here,
Yes,
Madison.
you're so welcome. Thanks for having me.
I I hope our listeners love it as much as I do.
Yes, of course. I hope they will.
Super. Thanks for being here. If this conversation resonated, share it with someone else who could benefit. That is how this community grows. And if you haven't already, follow or subscribe wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. When you're ready for more clarity and less chaos, go to www.swhfractionals.com and grab the Calm Reset. Until next time, remember, scaling isn't about doing more. It's about creating the capacity to lead what you're building and to